Welcome into another Dynasty video. Today, me and my boy Ryan Cash Sharma are going to be diving in to some future Dynasty stashes. Some guys that are barely going to make your roster, if even make your roster, if you got a loaded one. But just some guys that to keep an eye on. You're looking 2026 here. You're no longer looking at your 2025 success rate. You're looking at 2026, some guys that you can count on in the future. Ryan, how are you doing today?
Good. Yeah, I'm excited for this video because, in a lot of leagues, the trade deadline might have passed. So I kind of like this concept because there's a chance that these guys are on the waiver wire in some of your leagues. So, yeah, looking forward to the future, and maybe you have that extra keeper spot and you don't know who to give it to. Maybe we can help out with some of these names.
I went through, and I think of the 8 players that we have, I had 1, 2, 3. I think only 3 of them were available, if I think about it correctly. I'd maybe have to go back and check the numbers in my leagues, but I think only 3 of them were available. But we got some ball knowers in our leagues, Ryan, so
Yeah.
we'll allow it. You got anything big coming up for this Monday night game that you need?
Yeah, really in my only league that I'm actually really good in, I'm down by 20. I've got Dak Prescott and Jake Ferguson. My opponent has Genty and Bowers, so it's like I'm looking at like a 20% chance to win that, but you never know what can happen. Our league really rewards quarterback scoring too, though. So if Dak can give me like 40, I might be good.
Okay.
How about you?
I like that. Yeah, I'm up 26 in one league where I'm right on the bubble for the playoffs, up 26, but he's got Bowers and Ferguson. So it's going to be a really tight one. And I'm probably
2 tight ends.
Yeah, two top tight ends. So I'm nervous about that. We're going to see how it plays out. It's tight end, so anything could happen. They could have 3 points and nobody would
2
really
bad
be surprised.
defenses, though.
Yeah, I know.
Really
I think I'm cooked, okay? Like, we don't have to dive too deep into it. All right, let's go ahead and start off. We're going from 1 through each position. Each of us have a future stash that we like. And here are our quarterbacks. Ryan stashing the Vikings backup quarterback, Max Brosmer. UDFA this year made the roster, only an own percentage of 6% across all Dynasty leagues, and he's 24 years old. I'm rolling with another rookie as well. I'm going with Will Howard, Steelers 6th-round pick this year, only an own percentage of 17% across Dynasty leagues. Ryan, what made you decide to go with the UDFA backup out of Minnesota, in Minnesota, Max Brosmer?
Yeah, so I think this one is actually like surprisingly more about Max Brosmer than it even is about JJ McCarthy, I think. Like, I really like Max Brosmer as a prospect and as a potential fit in this Kevin O'Connell system. I will say, like, a lot of it does have to do with JJ McCarthy and how bad he looks. I think, like, maybe 50-50. Like, if JJ McCarthy continues to play the way he is, I just don't see how they can continue to play him, to be completely honest. Like, they got to give somebody else a shot. We know Carson Wentz is done for the season. Obviously, they let Sam Darnold walk out the door. They let Daniel Jones walk out the door. So they don't really have any like immediate options to turn to. I don't see another like free agent quarterback out there that they can bring in. So to me, it's like your best chance of like getting some kind of competent offense might be turning to this UDFA rookie. And I think the thing about Max Brosmer as a prospect that was really interesting is that he ran a pro style offense in Minnesota, and just watching kind of his film, he kind of plays like Brock Purdy, like a Mac Jones. Like, he plays like one of those Shanahan system quarterbacks that don't really have a lot of arm talent, don't have like this high ceiling. Like JJ McCarthy, he might look really bad, but he arguably still has a ceiling just because of how strong his arm is, how athletic he is. He still has some upside. Max Brosmer maybe doesn't have that upside, but he's got kind of what a coach loves, and that's ability to quickly process the field, get the ball out of his hands quickly, and he's really accurate in the short game. So, and he really had a good preseason. That's kind of when he got on my radar in the preseason. He had a really, really strong couple of weeks there. He kind of also reminds me a bit of like Tyson Bagent, who we know really well as a backup quarterback on our side. And maybe he just has like the floor of a backup quarterback, and that's what he'll be for the majority of his career. But I kind of remember thinking the same about Brock Purdy. And we saw what happened with Trey Lance, maybe a similar situation with the top draft pick getting benched. The genius head coach prefers the guy that can run his system. So I just see a lot of parallels. And I think he's a Minnesota kid. He went to Minnesota in his last year in college, gets drafted to the Vikings. I think there's just some narratives and at play here, and I wouldn't be surprised if he, started a couple games this year and maybe made a name for himself even.
Yeah, I would be very surprised, honestly, if they went to him this season. I feel like with McCarthy's injury history and kind of how the season's shaping out, you might as well just get him all the reps he can get. But it is a very interesting play here because there are obviously probably some more idiotic Vikings fans that are pushing for Brosmer to start. I feel like you shouldn't, be pushing the buttons that heavy on McCarthy to get out of town only after 4.5 career starts. But he did have a very impressive preseason. I know that always doesn't, like you said, you kind of nailed it on the head with Tyson Bagent, who looked awesome in the preseason for the Bears. Came in, and he was a serviceable quarterback, but he had his limitations. It was only his rookie year. Maybe he's still growing. But Brosmer, on the other hand, I like the stash. I like the stash for the future. I just like stashing these offensive backups. Like, are these like offensive-minded teams? They're backups.
Yeah.
Like Mac
Especially
Jones.
when you got Justin Jefferson and Jordan Addison, all those playmakers there. If he starts and he's halfway good, he could be a really good option.
Yeah, I loved having Mac Jones this year on my bench. I drafted him in a startup draft this year for a reason because I was like, hey, this guy could play ball. When he does, he's going to be a very serviceable quarterback, maybe an average or above average quarterback, and that could be wonders for his future down the line. We saw what came out of Sam Darnold after leaving San Francisco and going to Minnesota, balling out there, and now he's in Seattle balling out despite his 4th pick performance. So I like Brosmer. I like the talent. I like where you're going with this one, too. I know the Vikings fans comparison has been Trey Lance and Brock Purdy, so you kind of nailed it on the head there. They're like, hey, should we get the Trey Lance out of here and throw in this undrafted free agent, even though Purdy was Mr. Irrelevant? All right, let's move on. Will Howard. I'm rolling with Will Howard here. Going with the matching names. I feel like this guy's getting no talk, and I know he's been injured and he didn't play in the preseason at all, which is, a big part of why I feel like he's just completely slipped under the radar. There was pre-draft guys saying, hey, maybe this guy could go 3rd round. I probably had like a 5th round grade on him. He ended up going, I believe, he went in the 6th round. So a little later than I was even, kind of expecting, but I feel like it's just a solid stash, and I like the path to a potential start next year, potentially, if Rodgers is out of there. But 1,200 collegiate attempts. Like, that's a lot of reps in college football. He had a really strong season at Ohio State. His previous years in Kansas State were solid, nothing crazy. And, obviously you could sit here and say a beneficiary of the offense. He's throwing to Emeka Egbuka, 1st-round pick this year. Cardinal Tate, upcoming 1st-round pick. Jeremiah Smith, 2 years, 1st-round pick. So, you could definitely say he's benefiting from the offense. And then you got Judkins and Henderson, his running backs, stout offensive line. But he did lead this team to a national championship. He played really good ball, and he has rushing ability. He had 26 rushing touchdowns over his collegiate career. That's juice. He's got the size, 6'4". He's got the good quarterback build. He's got a strong arm. 351 rushing yards and 9 touchdowns. In his senior season at Kansas State before transferring to Ohio State, where he didn't really need to run the ball. You could say only 351 yards and 9 touchdowns. That's another 90 fantasy points that you're able to add on to a season. Obviously, going into the NFL, that could be different, but this is a guy who could get you an extra 3 points a game, maybe going like 30 rushing yards a game, getting that 25 to 30 range, and big-bodied, can get into the end zone with no problem, had plenty of QB sneaks at Ohio State, Kansas State, very Josh Allen-esque. Like, give me the ball for a 3-yard run. He can get in there, no problem. He's athletic, hard to bring down. And like I said, I think it's just like the path to starting quarterback here. Very low own percentage. Maybe somebody you could toss in a trade in the offseason and be like an extra piece getting back just to get yourself a little bit of juice, take the risk on him. What are your thoughts on Will Howard?
Yeah, I don't mind that at all. Like you said, there is a somewhat of a path, and just based on like my feelings, like not really any facts, but I just feel like Aaron Rodgers is going to retire after this season. Like, it seems like he's just fed up, especially with that Arthur Smith offense. They have him playing like an old man. Like, it's a game manager style, not really exciting. They're running the ball on like first and second down, like every single series. So I just feel like Aaron Rodgers doesn't have the love for the game anymore. Plus, he just got injured. A part of me feels like he's going to retire after the season. And therefore, it's like, what is their path to getting a new quarterback? Because they're never bad enough to be able to pick high enough in the draft. And then I'm thinking about like guys that could get dealt. Like Kyler Murray doesn't really seem like a Steelers type of guy. I don't even really know who else would be available. Maybe like Anthony Richardson, but once again, I don't know if that's a Steelers fit. So I could definitely see like a world where, I mean, Mason Rudolph started for the Steelers for a while, so I could definitely see Will Howard, despite being a 5th or 6th round pick, getting some opportunity. And the starting quarterback, yeah, I'll take that in Dynasty all day.
Yeah, I mean, if you talk about Rudolph, who is currently still the backup there, I mean, it's like that guy's probably safer to at least win you games. Like, I feel like if you want to take a risk and find yourself in a position to draft a quarterback, you should go with Will Howard next year. Like, hey, either this guy sucks and we're going to find ourselves in a position to have a top pick, or you might have your guy. I mean, kind of a Sam Howell situation is how I look at it. Like, hey, let's just throw the guy out there, see what he can do. Hopefully we're bad enough where he can get us, a top 3 pick, or hopefully he's good enough where we can extend him. So Howell, obviously the former there, and not being good enough and getting dealt around. And speaking back on Brosmer was good enough where the Vikings traded for Sam Howell in draft season and then traded him after the preseason. So goes to show you on the Brosmer note as well. I wanted to bring that up. But yeah, I'm rolling with Will Howard. Let's move on to our running backs here. And you're stashing Taj Brooks, the 23-year-old out of Texas Tech rookie. And I'm rolling with Jordan James out of Oregon. Has yet to even play in a game for the 49ers this year. But we'll talk about it. You're rolling with Taj Brooks, and why?
Yeah, so running backs was tough because I feel like it's hard to think of a running back to stash because, every year there's so many that get drafted, and, it's just kind of a tough, because running backs need opportunities. So it doesn't seem like very often you're going to find a guy that just kind of comes out of nowhere and starts getting like 15, 20 touches. But when I was looking for someone that it could be, I was trying to chase like an opportunity where the team either had like a running back that was older and maybe injury prone, or a running back that wasn't that good but was getting a ton of opportunity because they didn't really have any other options. And then also just a team that really didn't have the means to invest in this position going forward. And I thought the Bengals kind of fit all 3 of those, not necessarily the older running back that's injury prone, but definitely Chase Brown has been getting 3 down back opportunities when he's not a 3 down back. And also looking into the future, I don't see how the Bengals are not going to spend every single one of their picks on a defensive player going forward. They have so much money tied up into the offense. Their defense is atrocious. So just looking at Taj Brooks, I'm like, this guy's got an opportunity here to carve out a role for him. Also, just looking at the prospect, I mean, he was an underrated college player. He ran for 3,000 yards and 27 touchdowns in the last 2 seasons at Texas Tech. I thought as a prospect, he kind of reminded me a lot of Le'Veon Bell with his like run style and how patient he is at the line of scrimmage. He's got the size to handle a workload. He's 5'10", 215, unlike Chase Brown, who's a little bit smaller. And then also, I feel like typically guys that were super productive in college and then slip in the draft, usually it's because they're like really bad athletes. They don't test well at the combine, things like that. But I checked out his RAS via Math Bomb on Twitter. They do those little report cards. And he actually had an elite RAS score. Like he had a 9 RAS, and his agility was in the 96th percentile for both the 3-cone and the shuttle. And I feel like that kind of checks out with Le'Veon Bell because they're kind of, the guys that dance at the line of scrimmage. I'm like, he's kind of like an underrated prospect, and he just hasn't gotten that opportunity yet. But I think there is a path. Samaje Perine's kind of like their stopgap that's been getting some opportunities, but I could see him taking that role. And then, like I said, Chase Brown's just not overly exciting of a player to me. He could be like a good change of pace back that, maybe comes in on 3rd down. But I feel like they're still searching for that early down back. I remember they tried to sign Zach Moss that one year, and then he had a terrible injury. They let Joe Mixon go. So I feel like they're looking for that guy. And like I said, I don't see how they're going to sign or draft that guy with how many needs they have on defense. So that was kind of my line of thinking.
Yeah, I feel like Chase Brown, who I was high on going into this season, definitely has been more of a product opportunity, but the opportunity's been there. That's why I was so high on him, is he's getting all the reps. And I like this stash. I do, because Chase Brown found himself in a very similar role. He had no really impact his rookie season and then found himself in year 2, into
Yeah.
a bigger role last season once Moss got hurt, and now he's the breakaway guy. You know, Chase Brown only has 1 year left after next season. Taj Brooks could really start to get some reps in 2026 from Chase Brown, wanting to see what this guy can bring us, kind of shifting into there. And like you said, this team really can't invest too much into the running back position because of their massive need for defense. Already so much money invested in the quarterback and wide receiver position, and they're going to need to invest in the offensive line as well because that's not overly great. There really is no room for improvement at the running back position in terms of financials. So you can't go out there and you spend. So I like the Taj Brooks stash, and my stash, Jordan James. I love the youth. First off, I love that he's only 21 years old, 5th round pick. This was actually the pick that they got back from Deebo Samuel when they traded him to the Commanders. He's good stock. He's a little short, only a 15% own percentage across the league. But my favorite thing is, other than his age, is how fresh he is. He only has 379 collegiate attempts. And on every single one of those attempts, he really took advantage of all of those runs. He averaged 6 yards per carry in college, ran for 1,200 yards in his final season at Oregon. He's got power. He's not easy to bring down, but he was also quick enough. Ran a 4.55. You know, it's not elite speed, but quick enough to hit the gaps and blow past the second level at least a little bit here. Going to get caught by those quicker DBs. But I just love that. And I think it's like, there's a path as well. I went with a path on this one for the opportunity. CMC is taking up just about everything. But Brian Robinson Jr. is gone after this year. Isaac Guerrero really hasn't turned into anything much. Shanahan doesn't trust his rookies. Never has, never will. And that's why we're having such a struggle, I think, for him to be getting into this room. I mean, you got Brian Robinson Jr. there. You got Christian McCaffrey there and Isaac Guerrero already. That's why he hasn't been dressing. But I do think this is a guy who in 2026 could really get dressed. There was a few guys I wanted to go with here. Jarquez Hunter, I'm really a big fan of his, but you got Corum and Kyron Williams there. Kyron's on an extension. Corum still got 2 years left on his rookie deal, and he showed juice. I'm a fan of Hunter, but it's hard to overcome that in my eyes. I want to go with Giddens, but I felt like he was just too good of a name, because you know that the second Jonathan Taylor goes down, he's going to be good. So everybody's pretty high on Giddens. I want to go with a low guy here. I want to go with Jordan James, a guy that everybody was kind of high on in the draft, 5th round pick. I mean, same thing with like Taj Brooks. These guys are just, I think, falling into this draft class last year because it was so running back heavy that they were just slipping. I mean, these are guys that are normally going in the 3rd or 4th round, going in the 5th and 6th round. So I'm rolling with Jordan James. I think 2026, this is a guy who could find himself right behind Christian McCaffrey. And that's a big role, because if you have injury history like Christian McCaffrey does, that means you could find yourself into a starting running back role. And I love his fresh legs. I love his youth. That's a guy who could, really put a lot of numbers up. You could just feed that guy the ball because of how fresh he is.
Yeah, I really like Jordan James too as a prospect. Like you said, it was such a stacked class that it was so deep. I mean, even Kyle Monangai went in the 7th round, and he's a guy that, normally would be like a 4th round pick, and we've already seen what production he's done. So it's like this draft class to me was so deep. These guys just need an opportunity. And yeah, I was close on Giddens too, because like I said before, like I was searching for guys that were behind a vet that has an injury history. And, once they get hurt, the rookie's going to step into that role. And I think Christian McCaffrey, that's an obvious one. Jonathan Taylor, Saquon Barkley. I was kind of thinking of maybe like Tank Bigsby or Will Shipley, but I like the pick of Jordan James. I think, he's really young. He has a solid draft capital. I am kind of curious, like what happened with Isaac Guerrero. Like, I don't know why exactly they ended that experiment so quickly. Like, it seemed like he was very productive when he played, but then just had a lot of injuries maybe. But yeah, if Jordan James does take over that 2nd spot, he's definitely going to be worth keeping on your bench just because McCaffrey's injury history, like you said.
Yeah, I feel like Jordan James is a keep. Like you're going to keep Jordan James on your roster. Probably same with Taj Brooks. I mean, you can make arguments for Brosmer or Will Howard depending on how deep you are, but just the potential of Taj Brooks and Jordan James, unless you're absolutely unbelievably stacked, so deep. Jordan James, I feel like, and Taj Brooks are both keeps moving into 2026. Here are some shaky ones. I mean, we've got an own percentage of 1% here and an own percentage of 9%. Ryan's riding with Tyrell Shavers, the Buffalo Bills wideout, who had a big game on Sunday. And I'm rolling with Bub Means. And I'm very intrigued to hear what you have to say about, well, let's put this back up there. The 26-year-old 2023 UDFA. I mean, look at that size. It's great, but I'm excited to hear what you have to say about Tyrell Shavers.
Yeah, I mean, admittingly, this could be just a little bit too reactive to what happened this past week. He wasn't really that much on my radar before this, but he did have a monstrous preseason, kind of similar to Max Brosmer, where he was definitely making a name for himself a little bit through that. But I was kind of going back and forth on him. Jalen Royals was another name I wanted to throw out there because I did
Same here.
think that, yeah, he was like a really good prospect that got drafted to obviously the Kansas City Chiefs, but for me on that one, I'm just kind of scared about what kind of role he can have. Obviously, Rasheed Rice is there and Xavier Worthy. So with Tyrell Shavers, I was like, man, if Keon Coleman is kind of headed down this road of being a bust, they got to get like someone to replace him very, very quickly because they need weapons. And obviously, they're in a win now kind of mode. They don't really have that X receiver if Keon Coleman's not reliable. They have a bunch of like nice gadget guys like Khalil Shakir is mainly a slot. I know they have some other. I don't know if they have Curtis Samuel still, but they have a lot of receivers in that kind of mold where they don't have that big X receiver on the outside. And I think Tyrell Shavers is that guy. He has the size to be an X receiver. He broke out this week with 90 yards and a touchdown. I was kind of interested in like the response to that after the game, like would the coach kind of hype him up with Josh Allen, and they both really spoke, extremely high of Shavers. Said that he puts a lot of work in. He seems like I feel like every couple of years there's a success story with just like an undrafted receiver that becomes like a very reliable staple in a good offense like Buffalo. So I think Cole Beasley at one point was an undrafted receiver, right, with Dallas. I mean, there's a lot of success stories. Chris Hogan. So I just think undrafted receivers, if they can work hard and find good chemistry with a good receiver or with a good quarterback, sorry, that they can earn that trust. They're going to start getting on the field a little bit more. And like teams like Buffalo don't care about draft capital. Like they don't care that they took Keon Coleman in the early second. Like, hey, we're trying to win. We're going to put the best players out there, the guys that want to be here. So I think Tyrell Shavers might earn a pretty nice role for himself. And then once again, like another team that doesn't really have the ability to invest heavily in this position. I know they tried trading for Jalen Waddle, but their cap's going to be pretty rough, obviously, with Josh Allen making 60 mil. And then they're also going to have to fix up their defense, I think, going forward.
Yeah, I feel like though at the same time, like how bad fans are clamoring for them to spend either a pick or a lot of money on a wide receiver, a true wide receiver one worries me about Shavers, but I like it. I like it. We'll see how the rest of the season plays out for him. Obviously, a huge game against the Tampa Bay Buccaneers and putting up the numbers like he is, and then you saying like Josh Allen and McDermott speaking highly of him post game, and this is a guy who's been there, broke out in the preseason, finally getting some work this week with Keon Coleman being down, and then putting up a phenomenal numbers. I'm very interested to see how the rest of the season plays out for Shavers. This could be a guy that we might start seeing him get picked up in a couple of weeks. But you nailed it on the head with just multiple people have found success in this offense. Khalil Shakir has found success in this offense. Gabe Davis was a 4th-round pick and was putting up insane numbers there for a while. Like they don't really care who you are or where you're drafted as long as you can catch the ball from Josh Allen, because he is one of those quarterbacks that just makes the rest of the offense around him better. So I like this for Shavers, but I am cause for some concern in the future. Just like, I don't know, we're going into year 2 now. UDFA took them this while to get going, and they haven't had the greatest wide receiver room. But hey, taking a shot in the dark on Shavers, fuck it, we ball. Let's talk some Bub Means, dude. I'm a big Bub Means guy. This is a guy who only has an own percentage of 9%, and the injuries are really starting to pile up for Bub. But I mean, 24 5th-round pick. He's got, like, in my opinion, the perfect wide receiver build. 6'1", 212. That's where like the dogs are lying nowadays. That's like right up your Jamar Chase alley. Like, and he runs a 4.4, and he had like 3 really nice weeks in New Orleans in his rookie season. He finally gets in there, gets some reps when the receiver room was down. I'm pretty sure Olave was out, and Bub Means was eating. Rashid Shaheed's gone now. He's out this entire season. He's missed this entire season, missed the entire back half of last year. But this is a team that cannot invest at the wide receiver position. They need so much. They need so much. I mean, they are from across the board a really bad franchise, and Mickey Loomis has drove this team into the dirt. There isn't like 5 players on that team that are like
That Devon Vele trade, oh my God.
terrible. Terrible. Nobody else was finding success in this offense in the receiving game other than Chris Olave and Rashid Shaheed, and they traded Rashid Shaheed. Bub Means has a chance to really make some noise next year if he can come back healthy. What else did I have written down by him? Oh, he had 5+ targets in 3 of his 4 games last year. So, like, hey, when he was, I mean, he only played 4 games because of injury. When he was on the field, they were throwing the ball to him. So, like, I don't know. I'm riding the Bub Means hand. I don't think this is a guy you should probably keep. I'm talking next year early on when it's either draft time and you want to drop a 5th round pick on somebody you don't know who to go with, or it's right after your rookie drafts and you're just picking up your free agents. Go pick up Bub Means. I think this is a guy who could really rise up through the ranks and be the wide receiver 2 in New Orleans next year. Brandon Cooks doesn't scare me. I'm not worried about any of that. Devon Vele obviously having 0 impact in that offense whatsoever. Rashid Shaheed now gone. All they have is Chris Olave. I don't sleep on Bub Means, Ryan.
Yeah, I don't hate that at all. I mean, I don't think I was ever that high on him as a prospect necessarily, but I do like the opportunity that could be there for him in this New Orleans Saints offense. Like Chris Olave, it seems like there's traction to bringing him back or keeping him long term, as opposed to previous seasons where maybe he could have got dealt. But even with him there, still, like you said, Rashid Shaheed traded. There's tons of opportunity in that receiver room. Devon Vele is interesting. I think they traded for Jalen Polk, didn't they too? So
yeah, and
yeah,
he's not even getting opportunity over there. Oh yeah, he's been hurt. Yeah.
Yeah. So I mean, maybe he's competing with Polk next year. Who knows? But at the same time, like you said, opportunities there. I'm actually been kind of surprised, like pleasantly surprised with the New Orleans quarterback situation. Like both of those guys can find completions. Like they're not explosive quarterbacks. They don't really get a lot of big plays down the field, but they actually can operate an offense pretty efficiently to the point where receivers can eat, tight ends can eat. Like there's completions to be had, especially for a PPR. It's not like one of those insanely low volume offenses that you usually see with awful teams. So yeah, if Bub Means can get a starting receiver job, I could definitely see him getting back to those 5-6 targets a game and being a nice little stash.
Yeah, I mean he's gonna have to work for it. You know, they got Vele there, they have Jalen Polk there next year, so there's gonna be a battle for that wide receiver 2 spot. You know, barring that they don't bring in anybody during the draft or free agency. They very well could, but I think Bub Means has a chance to really go in there. I mean, dude, I don't know. There's just something that I think in the modern NFL where I don't give a shit if the receiver is like 6'4", 6'5" anymore. Like I just get 6'1", 210, 4'4", love it. Superstar.
6'4" is like almost too big now. It's like he's not fluid enough. He's not, you know, he doesn't have the agility. He's just big.
Yeah, I mean, you look at the best receivers in the game right now. It's like Puka Nacua and JSN, who are both like 6 foot, a little bit stockier build. JSN a little on the skinnier side than Puka, but yeah, I feel like that's the way the game is moving. Let's go ahead and move into some tight ends. Jesus, we're making a whole 30-minute show about absolutely nobody's. It's a little bit difficult to talk about these guys longer than like 30 seconds because there's not much to go off of.
We're doing
all right. Some stash tight ends to wrap up today's show. Ryan taking the, in my opinion, very most obvious stash tight end in all of Dynasty, Ben Sinnott. This guy's been traded around for 4th-round picks left and right in multiple of my leagues. Only 23 years old, 2nd-round pick in 2024. Perfect tight end build at 6'4", 245, only an owned percentage of 14%. And I'm rolling with Cade Stover, another 2024 pick. 4th-round pick for the Houston Texans, 6'4", 251, only an owned percentage of 9%. What's with the Sinnott pick? Have you not seen enough? Because I kind of have. And this is a guy who's spent two picks, late round picks on Ben Sinnott. So
I'm actually kind of surprised he's only at 14%. Like when I made this pick, I thought it was a little bit too obvious of one to be considered a deep stash. I'd kind of be curious where Michael Mayer would be on that as well, because obviously they were in the same draft, I believe, or Mayer might have been a year before. But regardless, like both of them were 2nd-round picks. Ben Sinnott, though, like I have optimism for him a little bit because I feel like he's gotten forgotten about a little bit, but he was a really good prospect. Like I said, second round pick, 6'4", has the size, has the speed, the athleticism, had really good hands too. I remember watching his college film and thinking like, yeah, this guy, he could be kind of like an all around tight end, reminding me a bit of TJ Hawkinson in a lot of ways. So I was really high on him. I think like in the last two drafts, I would have only had him below Bowers, Loveland, and Warren. To be honest, like as a prospect, he'd probably be my fourth tight end. So when you think about that, it's like, man, 2 years and we're ready to give up on him. He's kind of been buried in Washington behind Zach Ertz. I imagine Zach Ertz is going to retire soon. So it is a little bit concerning that Sinnott hasn't been able to get on the field, especially when Washington has lacked so much like young talent in their offense and juice. You would think he would get more opportunity. Maybe he's just a really bad player in practice. He doesn't understand the offense, something like that. But I mean, he only has 8 catches so far in his NFL career. So that's very, very disappointing. But I do think maybe if Zach Ertz leaves, we've talked about a lot, like tight ends pretty traditionally a position that takes a while for guys to kind of develop and blow up. I think it's kind of gotten forgotten because of how instant the impacts of guys like Brock Bowers and Tyler Warren. And these tight ends now are coming out of college. Sam Laporta, Kyle Pitts, when he was drafted, had a really good rookie year. So I feel like people are kind of forgetting that usually it takes a bit with tight ends. And that was the reason why I was thinking of Michael Mayer too, because it's like you got to give these guys a couple of years to really come into their own because they're learning such a difficult position in terms of, you're kind of learning the position of an O lineman while also learning the position of a receiver. So it's like a 2-for-1. It takes a while to adjust. So I just think when Zach Ertz is gone, Ben Sinnott might get an opportunity. And for that reason, and like I said, how high I was on him as a prospect, I would definitely not mind stashing him as a keeper and hoping that he at least gets a better, more of an opportunity coming in these upcoming years. If not like upcoming weeks, to be honest, with how out of it Washington is right now.
Yeah, and I feel like another thing that's like really hurting him is that Ertz is just Kingsbury's boy. He was his boy in Arizona. Now he's with him in Washington. Like,
yeah,
I feel like
he was blocking McBride, right?
Yeah. Oh yeah, McBride exploded in his first year without Kingsbury. I think his first year was really bad. McBride was like,
I'm pretty sure Ertz was still there in his first year, and he was blocking him because I remember that. Yeah.
Because then in 2023, that's when Gannon took over. Then McBride had like a 800-yard season or 700-yard season. Really took a nice jump in year 2, and then after that, it's just been next level elite. So, I feel like that's definitely what has been affecting his play. This is somebody I could see easily getting moved as well, traded to another team. I really like Ben Sinnott too. I thought this was going to be the year I'm going to take a risk on him. Ertz has had injury history in the past. He's getting up there in age. I know they extended him to like a 2-year deal, I believe. So I just like the potential. I don't know, because that's the Commanders. They've paid all their old players, everybody. They just hand contracts to anybody over the age of 30. Like that's literally all they do for some fucking reason. So I don't know. I agree with you. I like Sinnott. I am just really worried about this Washington offense moving forward with Kingsbury. Is he going to be brought back after this season? I would assume so, just because of their year 1 success and the injuries that have piled up. Mostly on Terry McLaurin and Jaden McDaniels, Austin Eckler. But I am worried about Sinnott, especially if Ertz is here next year. Then we're going into year 3, and it's like, okay, is he going to take Ertz's role this year? Is he like, if not, get moved? And Michael Mayer actually has a 22% own percentage, but I do feel like a lot of that is probably because Bowers missed like 6 games this year. So I feel like that
still seems low though.
Yeah,
I mean,
I feel like it's like tough to stash tight ends like that, though.
Yeah, but I mean, Michael Mayer was like a hot name on the trade market, I remember, in this last offseason. So if he gets to a new team, he was once a first-round type of prospect, I remember, out of Notre Dame. So, and those Notre Dame tight ends, they always have, somewhat success. I guess a lot of them have kind of fallen off recently, though, like Komet and Freiermuth. So maybe Notre Dame isn't tight end you anymore, but still, starting tight end, hopefully.
Yeah, I get what you're saying. I'm rolling with Cade Stover, though. Nah, it was tough for me. There was a few things. I didn't really like the age at 25 and not really finding juice right away. Wanted to go with someone younger. I thought about like Gavin Bartholomew, the Vikings tight end, because I do think there's a route where Hockenson doesn't play here next year. Probably want to unload his contract. He's just not the same player that he wanted to be, but I also didn't really like Evan Bartholomew at all whatsoever. So I'm rolling with Cade Stover here. Last season, only saw 26 targets, but he still got some work in weeks. He was on the field a decent amount, played more of the blocking, the blocking tight end while Schultz was their main receiver. But this year in game 1, before getting injured and now just getting activated off IR last week, he saw 5 targets in his first game. So I was like, okay, maybe there's some juice there for Stover. Then he gets hurt, just activated off of IR this week. And Dalton Schultz has been banged up this season. They have a potential out on his contract. I think this could be the tight end 1 in Houston next year. The only downside to that is I don't think this is going to be like some heavy tight end schemed offense. The offense struggles on its own to begin with. They have a plethora of receivers. They've spent high capital on receivers. They still have Tank Dell, who's probably going to be coming off the injured list in 2026, on top of already having Jalen Noel, Jaden Higgins, Nico Collins. It's more receiver friendly than it is tight ends. Schultz was always just like your 8 to 10 point guy. You could throw him out there consistent, but he was never going to explode in this offense. And that's where I feel like Stover is. I feel like Stover's a good backup tight end for the future, though. A good stash to have somebody you can play in your bye weeks, somebody that's going to be reliable when your main or starting tight end goes down. So I'm rolling with Stover. He was on Ohio State, which they haven't really translated tight end success really well. I remember being really high on Jeremy Ruckert back in 2021. He never once got any juice whatsoever in the New York Jets offense. He was a third-round pick. I was super high on him, never panned out there. So I don't think that this guy has a crazy ceiling. I don't think that this is a big, juicy, sneaky tight end who's going to come in and all of a sudden be a 600, 700-yard guy with like 5 touchdowns attached to his name and like 60 receptions. But I do think this is a guy who's going to be a really good backup tight end for a few years.
Yeah, no, I could definitely see him taking over that Houston Texan starting tight end role and maybe being like you said, tight end 2, maybe in fantasy, that 10 to 20 range, kind of like Dalton Schultz is now. Man, I hope he can block, because if I'm the Texans, I'm just having him stay in there and block every single down. I'm not sure how much he's going to even be able to run routes and catch balls, to be honest.
The more I think about it, that's honestly probably why they don't have any usage from their tight ends. They're probably just fucking keeping them on the line of scrimmage for 60-70% of their plays.
Especially with like the receiver talent they have, like you said, like why even bother having the tight end run routes when you got 3 legitimate weapons out there? But yeah, if he can carve out a role for himself, I'm sure he's got good chemistry with CJ Stroud. Like you said, they played together at Ohio State.
Yep.
It's kind of funny you mentioned Ruckert, because he probably played with Justin Fields at Ohio State, right? And still, no connection.
Very well did, yes. Yep. No,
yeah.
I mean, I don't know if Fields has a connection with anybody nowadays.
Yeah, got the connection with the bench.
Yeah,
I thought he would have had a connection with Garrett Wilson, because he did have one with DJ Moore. Maybe DJ Moore is the only guy he'll ever have a connection with for some odd reason. But he might have had one with George Pickens too, actually. But yeah, Cade Stover, I do like him as a future starting tight end. When you invest like that kind of capital in a tight end, I feel like eventually you have a vision of him starting anyway. So, and like I said, the connection with Stroud. So yeah, I imagine he's going to be a decent player, maybe a goal line red zone target for them, and he'll get a couple touchdowns for you. And like I said, spot start at tight end every once in a while.
Yeah, 100%. That's kind of all I envision him to be. I don't really see him. I think we're going to figure out more as the second half of the season goes on. Now that he's activated off of IR, Dalton Schultz has been kind of banged up this year, and they have a chance to dump his contract after the season, which I believe he is making like $9 million a year. So really probably want to cut him. That'd be a really good cut candidate. Yeah, very obvious one for them. 100%. So this is somebody they might want to see what they got just in this last back half of the season. I know Davis Mills is projected to start again this week, so we won't really see if him and Stroud have any juice together, but hopefully we can get a few games, something to build off heading into 2026.
Definitely.
That was fun. 39 minutes and 30 seconds as of right now at this mark of talking about absolutely nobodies.
That's
who
impressive.
In 2 years we're probably going to be like, holy shit, you remember that guy Bub Means?
That's why we just wanted to get these takes out there, though, because what if in 3 years Max Brosmer is Brock Purdy? Then we have it on video.
Yeah. When this channel and our future Dynasty channel is like much bigger and better than this, and we have something to go back on. It's going to work out either one way. Nobody's going to be mad at us if we didn't, get Bub Means correct as like a future stash. But if one of these guys,
just dart throws.
yeah, if one
Never
of these
know.
guys, yeah, exactly, we're throwing darts at the board, hoping that we hit a bullseye, and we'll get to clip this in like 3 years if Bub Means is a superstar, and come back to this and be like, look at Will Gray calling his shot on November 17th of 2025.
I hope so.
All right, thank you. Yeah, that'd be great. All right, thank you guys so much for tuning in to another video. Hopefully, we get Lucas back next week, and we could really start doing some Dynasty deep dives because it's starting to heat up. What do we got left? 3 weeks until we're in the playoffs for fantasy football.
We're close. Maybe we can dive into some fantasy football matchups in terms of playoff schedules.
Oh yeah, I like that. Maybe that's our video next week. Talk to you guys soon. Thanks so much for tuning into another video. Power rankings out tomorrow. People have been bitching and moaning about them, but Rams best team in football. I called that one. Peace.